Free Julian Assange!
But I think it's great. No one's done their background research on this Zelensky. I've done it, and I'm telling you, like, anything that... Sign the petition, sir. Free Julian Assange. Sign the petition, sir. Sunday. Free Julian Assange. I just want to put it on social media.
Derek, here to feed us. They don't do it the same as us.
Free Julian! Free him! Free Julian! What? Where is he?
Take the form too. Thank you.
Say hi to my family.
Hi.
He's my brother from India.
Hi. We want everybody to do their best to spread the message that if we don't have freedom of speech, if we don't have freedom of the press, we don't have anything. We don't have any rights. If we are afraid to speak the truth, we might as well be living in a dictatorship. So that's why we're here. We're here demonstrating for our freedoms, and Julian Assange is the lightning rod for all of our freedoms. If they can do it to him, they can do it to anybody. We're very simply here to stand up for sensible justice and let the government know that, at least in our opinion, they have no right to be behaving the way they're behaving. They have a duty to stand up for the rights of a sovereign Australian and to stand up for the rights of this country to be a sovereign country and not be told what to do by foreign countries, provided we're not doing anything wrong, and we're not.
Hear, hear.
Thank you.
Let's keep the bastards in public office honest.
Thank you so much.
Sign the petition.
Thank you, madam. Well, we the people know what's going on.
Billy's going to pretend to support the government and I'll support Julian, okay? So, have you got any objections to what Julian's done, Billy?
He's released a lot of information about what the government's doing. So all of the diplomats in the world and all of the governments in the world will know what our government's doing. What do you think about that?
Well, if what they're doing is legal, then he's not going to report on that. The only things that Julian Assange reports on are the illegal things. And yes, I do believe the exposure of illegal things is not only lawful, but it's required by law.
If you know, they didn't know about all those illegal things until Assange came out and told them, did they?
But that's the whole point, Billy. We need to know about we need to know about the corruption in our government. We need to know about where our tax dollars are being spent. We need to know about the wars that are being fought in our name. Do we really want to invade all these countries? Do we really want to create enemies all around the world?
Well, the Afghani, so there was terrorists there, wasn't there?
Well, it was actually the American state that created the terrorists to fight the Russians. If a government was concerned about our security and welfare, they would be stopping these wars. They would be negotiating peaceful settlements in these wars. They would be offering assistance to honest governments that had the welfare of their people at heart, and not feeding greedy dictators in third world countries in order to control those third world countries, which is America's standard modus operandi. We must stop this constant invasion of other countries. It will ultimately destroy us. We will lose all our friends in the world. We of the Five Eyes, we that stick together, we represent 13% of the world population. And we see now that the 87% of the population are now wising up to our skullduggery. And they're starting to say enough is enough. And countries, great powerful countries like Russia and China and India are getting together and saying enough of this US imperialism. We've had enough. It must end. Already the US petrol dollar's been put aside. They're now trading oil all around the world in other currencies. The American empire is crumbling. Are we going to go down with it? That's our choice. Or are we going to stand up like Austria? Austria has in its constitution that it must remain neutral. It learnt that lesson during the Second World War, and it doesn't want to make that mistake again. So it has written a constitution that will not allow it to take sides in any war or any conflict between nations. We in Australia need to adopt that as our next constitutional change. That needs to be our goal, to be a free and independent and unaligned nation, and to build up the strength of this country for us, not for America, not to be pillaged. They are going to take $1/3 of $1 trillion for these bloody subs. I mean, wake up, folks. Do you know what you can do with $1/3 of $1 trillion? You could rebuild Iraq for a start. You could rebuild the last nation that you pulverized. That's what we could do with $1/3 of $1 trillion. That's 368 with 9 noughts after it. I mean, I can't even imagine that amount of money. But that's what we're going to spend on a couple of submarines. We've just given $1/3 of $1 trillion to these evil, warmongering bastards. And look, the other thing I'll say about submarines is they are not a defensive weapon. They are an offensive weapon. Each one of those submarines carries 24 intercontinental ballistic missiles that's capable of hitting any target anywhere on Earth. And each one of those 24 intercontinental ballistic missiles carries 7 warheads. And each of those warheads can be nuclear tipped, which means we can hit with one submarine 168 cities. We can wipe off the face of the earth 168 cities with one of these submarines. That's what we're paying $1/3 of $1 trillion for. This is obscene. Who thinks up this stuff? Come on, folks, wake up before it's too late. Wake up and stand up against these warmongering mongrels led by Anthony Albanese. How dare he? Outrageous! Thank you.
Free Assange!
You lost a book, man, it's called death. Born daycare school when you're doing your tests. Some fail, yeah, some are destined for success. But when you fail, the label you as a mess, what the fuck's with it? Society's insanity with no love in it. Digging a bigger hole and we're stuck in it. Well, not me, my cars, cause I don't trust bitches, nah. And when I say bitches, yeah, I ain't talking about women, I'm talking politicians spitting up lies and their gimmicks, saying they have faith in the system. 20,000 children go missing in ours every single year, like where the fuck are they headed? Real problem turned to social media, made as a trend. Pops up for a bit, then people strangely forget. Yeah, he's got to realise these cunts are paid to pretend. Turn off the fucking news and let it play with your head.
Whoa, thank you, Misha, thank you. Let's hear it for Misha. Come on, make some noise for Misha. Come on. Thank you, Misha. We need to hear more from the youth of this country. Come on. Fantastic. 175 weeks we've been here. You've probably all seen us a few times before. We've become a bit like this street furniture. We're a bit of a fixture on a Friday afternoon. Now that winter's arriving, we're going to move forward to 4 p.m. You'll see us here at 4 p.m. every Friday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. We've been here for 175 weeks. We're here until Julian's free. We'll keep coming back. We're not going to stop, because if they take the journalists away from us, then we won't know what they're up to. We need free press. It's not an option, free press, it's essential. Essential. The fourth estate is the only thing we need. We don't need politicians. We don't need bureaucrats. But we need a free press. We need Julian. Julian has never had to retract one word. His journalism is flawless. He's been challenged in court on numerous occasions and has never had to retract a single word. Our current government is lying to us. Our current government is telling us that they're going to do something for Julian. They're telling us that enough is enough. Well, I'm sorry, enough was always too much. 1 minute of arbitrary detention of Julian would be 1 minute too long. This man is completely innocent. I'll repeat that. Julian Assange is completely innocent. Thank you. He's now spent, I think it was December the 7th, 2010, Pearl Harbor Day. Pearl Harbor Day 2010, 13 years ago. He was put in solitary confinement for 10 days. Since then he's been under house arrest, holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy for 7 years, and has now spent 4 years in a maximum security, solitary confinement, lockdown, jail in the United Kingdom in London called Belmarsh, Hellmarsh, nicknamed Hellmarsh, known as the Britain's Guantanamo Bay, where they keep the worst of the worst. Outrageous. Outrageous. Albanese and Wong, if you don't do something, you're gone. Never to return, and your legacy will be inscribed on the Australian history books forever, as will those of all the former Prime Ministers that have been complicit in this outrageous persecution of an award-winning journalist. Julian Assange has won a Gold Walkley Award. He's been an honorary member of the MEAA, the Journalists Union, now for in excess of a decade. Outrageous. a flagrant attempt to silence free press. And you know what happens? First they come for the journalists, then we don't know what happens.
Compare John Howard to Albanese.
Yeah. I've just been reminded the standard line that Wong just peddled was that, you know, we can't really interfere with a sovereign country's legal process. They love to say this, but the reality is that 20 odd years ago, there was a guy called David Hicks, and he was in Guantanamo Bay. He was an Australian citizen who was being held in Guantanamo Bay. And that this was so outrageous, I guess of a similar scale of outrage to Julian Assange, but Barnaby Joyce, who was formerly a journalist himself, stood up for David Hicks. And he ultimately brought about the actions of the then Liberal government led by John Howard, of all people, and had David Hicks released from US custody from Guantanamo Bay. The condition of that release was what's called a gag order, which means we'll let you go, but if you tell them the horrible things we did to you, then we'll lock you back up again. And we'll treat you worse. And we'll treat your family worse. I mean, these are the tactics that we associate with ruthless dictatorships, with heavy-handed autocracy. But these are the tactics of our governments. So folks, what's happening to Julian is worse than what's happening to David Hicks, because Julian has only ever published the truth that was presented to him, and that truth revealed corruption and illegal behaviour by our government and governments all around the world. He hasn't just targeted our government, he's targeted every government. He's got more enemies in the world than you can imagine, because he targets the third world countries, any country that's got a corrupt government that's not acting in the best interests of their people, that he gets information on, he releases. WikiLeaks.org aims for one thing, and that is the release of material that is primary source information about corruption within government and powerful organisations. That's all Julian's ever done. Nothing more. Just tell us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And yet this man is locked up. Thank you.
Free Julian Assange!
Stop murdering Julian Assange!
Here.
How you going?
Yeah.
Free Julian Assange!
Well said.
G'day guys, I just want you to know that you've got to resist tyranny. Not only just resist tyranny, but let's free Assange. Let's bring him home. Let's bring him home where he belongs. Right here with us. Yeah? I mean, like, you know, justice is injustice until it becomes true justice. Who knows what the hell that means, but that's what all politicians speak, and we just don't know what they say when they say it. Okay, thanks for listening. So let's bring Assange home. Open up your hearts, give a bit of money, bring him home. Thanks, guys.
Free Julian Assange!
This is Julian Assange. Could I please have a...
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Inmate! Julian Assange! Only one decision!
Only one decision.
Don't extradition!
There is only one decision. There is only one decision. Inmate Julian Assange. Free.
Julian Assange!
Free.
Julian Assange!
Free.
Julian Assange!
Free.
Julian Assange!
Inmate
Our mate!
Julian Assange.
Inmate!
Our mate.
Julian Assange!
Only one decision.
No extradition!
There is only one decision. Inmate Julian Assange. Our mate.
Julian Assange!
Free.
Julian Assange!
Free.
Julian Assange!
Free.
Julian Assange!
Thank you.
Stop killing journalists! Journalism is not a crime! Free Julian Assange!
We are all Assange.